This is Pete Fletzer. On this episode of Around the Galaxy, we are talking to TikTok sensation Shaylo Wren.
What people don't know is I have a lot of young girls who message me and they're like, you know what, when I see you talking so boldly, it makes me feel safe in the fandom. It makes me feel like I can have valid opinions.
You're listening to Around the Galaxy.
Welcome to episode number 138 of Around the Galaxy, the Star Wars fan talk show. I am your host, Pete Fletzer. Thank you so much for joining us. If this is your first visit with Around the Galaxy, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because not only do we bring you this show every Tuesday where we talk to authors and actors and Oscar-winning creators and super fans and social media voices, but on Saturdays we bring you a show we call Disturbances in the Force, where we give you all the latest in Star Wars news and information with no clickbait, no spin. Just give us 5 minutes and we will give you the galaxy. Hey, also make sure to follow us on all your social media channels at ATGcast. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and TikTok. Yeah, I said TikTok. And speaking of TikTok, this week's guest is an internet sensation. Her name is Shaylo Wren, and she has made a name for herself by having very strong and very well-positioned, educated, thought-out positions on some of the Star Wars arguments happening in the internet. But we're going to get to her in just 1 minute.
I'm ready.
AT, you have to learn to be just a little bit...
I'm on time.
All right, go for it.
I'm timely. I'm ready to do my thing.
Yeah, and your thing is we started a couple weeks ago a new segment where ATG3 will find your review on Podchaser or Apple Podcasts or wherever you want to leave it, and he will read it. And
I'll probably mock it a little bit.
I'd rather you did.
No, I mean, that's
okay.
what I do.
All right, go.
Listen, Pete, I've been following you on Twitter. For those of you who are interested, I have my own Twitter handle.
This is not the ATG3 show.
Don't blow up my spot. I'm on Twitter now at RealATG3. And if you want to check me out, follow me there. But Pete, I've been seeing that you've been calling me sassy.
I have,
and
yes.
You know what? If that's what you're paying me for,
I don't pay you.
I know we've gone through that. But if that's what you're looking for, I'm bringing the sass.
I'm not sure I'm looking for that.
This week we have a review that we found on Apple Podcasts from somebody named Obi-Wan Cass.
Oh, cool.
And the headline is "A Phenomenal Show."
Wow, that is nice. Thank
then
you.
I double checked to make sure it was Around the Galaxy.
Okay.
And, it was.
Thank you.
And
Nice.
he then goes on to say, I listen to a lot of Star Wars podcasts, but this one stands out for the quality of the interviews and the detail of the discussions.
Very nice.
The swath of guests range from the historical to the important to the just plain fun. How do you decide who's important and who's just plain
Come
fun?
on. That's,
I mean,
no.
I don't know. Anyway, the host clearly knows his stuff, and this guy clearly doesn't know the host.
Okay.
But remembers that it's supposed to be about fun and community. Followed by subscribe with 2 exclamation points. So, I'd listen to him.
Well, thank you so much, Obi-Wan Cass. I really appreciate the kind review. And now, without further ado, I'm excited to bring you Shaylo Wren after these messages.
Don't forget to follow me at RealATG3.
This is Shaylo Wren, and you're listening to Around the Galaxy.
Shaylo, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to talk to you. And it's funny, I think I discovered you not even too long ago. I was, I think it might have been, I really started following you and digging in when the Luke Skywalker We Got Versus We Deserved video hit. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Shaylo, tell the people about yourself for those that don't know you.
Well, I started out on TikTok where I just pretty much go on there and scream about all my favorite nerdy things. And then the reason you found me is because I've moved to Twitter and have started also yelling about my favorite nerdy things. But I like to just talk about anything pop culture, Pokemon, Star Wars, anything under the sun like that.
It's great. And
that's how you sum it up.
Well, it's funny because I think, Twitter and any social media platform really has proven to be a place to just go and have fun with these conversations. But there's also just a lot of sort of tension and I don't know, tension. You can make it tense, I suppose, but there's a lot of I don't know, what's a polite way to put it? Maybe opposing viewpoints out there, and
It's intense.
yeah, it is intense, and maybe we start by telling me, how did Star Wars become one of your favorite nerdy things? When did you discover Star Wars, and what's your perspective on that?
My dad was a pretty big Star Wars fan, and then when I was itty bitty, we had, I don't know if you had one, but there was the Sega Dreamcast, that
Oh
old
yeah.
gaming console. We had one of those, and we had Jedi Power Battles on it, and he had me playing that. I was so young I couldn't say the word energy, so like there would be like the health packs, and I'd be like, I need energy, like I'd be trying to say it. That's how little I was. And we would just play Jedi Power Battles over and over, and I had the Phantom Menace on VHS that I would watch over and over. So it's my dad's influence.
And so the Phantom Menace was your first Star Wars film experience then?
Yeah.
So you were like, they weren't even in the theaters. You were
Nope.
watching the VHS and stuff.
I was born in 1997. I think it came out in 99.
Yeah, it came out in 99. Yep.
So yeah, I had them. I watched them at home. I think the Force Awakens, the first one that I saw in theaters. I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
But yeah, that's why I defend the Phantom Menace with my life.
Well, see, I mean, it's great because that was that sort of perfect age, right? I mean, when you're young, tell me about your Force Awakens experience.
Oh, the Force Awakens. When people ask like if there's one Star Wars movie you could experience for the first time again, it would totally be the Force Awakens, because the atmosphere in the theater was just, everybody was so excited. There was no negativity. I mean, like a little bit, but no negativity yet. And everybody was just so pumped Star Wars was back. So the theater was just like electric. It was so fun. If I could see anyone for the first time again, it would be the Force Awakens.
Yeah. Yeah, the amazing thing about Force Awakens, I was just actually talking about this recently, is my daughter was she created her own Rey costume before she even saw the movie. She just absolutely loved it. And you're right, it definitely had that vibe, that sort of back to the, getting back into Star Wars kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then and so you go by the name Shaylo Ren. So I'm guessing you're a bit of a fan. And I know from reading your tweets and watching some of your TikToks, you're a bit of you enjoyed The Last Jedi.
I love it.
So would you consider yourself, I hate to bucket, but would you call yourself a Raylo? I mean, I'm guessing based on Shaylo Ren, but do you fall into that camp of that, the shipping there, or no?
Yeah, I love Raylo. I also love Finn and Rey as a couple though, but that may just be because I see a lot of me and my partner in that. Like I don't think Rey has to have a romance, but like I do love Raylo and I do love Finn and Rey. It is a lot of fun. And I love the dyad. I love the dyad so much.
So you came in through Last Jedi, and then Rise of Skywalker. How did that strike you? Because right now it seems like, I feel like there's always going to be, and I'd love your opinion on this, there's always going to be some sort of friction among people who love The Last Jedi and hated The Last Jedi. And I definitely want to dig into that in a second. But it seems like there's a lot of talk recently about people who love The Rise of Skywalker and people that don't like The Rise of Skywalker. Where did you come down on that? And again, there's no wrong answer. And I think that's something people need to remember. There's no wrong answer on it.
Yeah, when I came out of the theater, I was happy. I was like, that was good. It's a good wrap up. I'm fine with it. But I do hold the opinion that Star Wars isn't exactly like perfect cinema. Like I don't have very high I love it because it's fun, So when I came out, I was like, yeah, that's fine. I do have complaints about it, but like I when I like think of Star Wars movies and like on how much I like them, I tend to look at the positives more than the negatives. So while there is a lot of negatives in TROS for me, the good is really good, if that makes sense. So I still do really like TROS. It's pretty good. I think it was it could have been worse.
It's a very strong selling point. It could have been worse.
Yeah, especially for like the last in the Skywalker trilogy saga, the last of the Skywalker saga. It would have been awful if it ended like on a complete train wreck. So I'm happy with it. I'm okay with it.
Well, I think you're going into it with a really good perspective. Star Wars should be fun and it should be a positive experience. But you have found when you do some of your your TikTok videos, you give opinions, and people don't want to. People want to argue with your opinions. And would you say that your videos tend to start with responding to a bad take, or do you just put your takes out there and then people respond to you with just impolite things, to put it politely?
Impolite's a good word for it. Well, I started posting like over a year ago, and I was very much in the mindset of like, I'm going to be super polite. Like, I'm going to be super welcoming. I'm going to be super kind. And then I realized that if I don't overly sugarcoat it, then a lot of men are like, oh, you're a jerk. And it's like, because they expect women to always be very kind and gentle with them. And so like over time, I've gotten more into the mindset of like, I want to take up space. So I've been going out of my way to roast bad takes.
Yeah.
But that's because I do have a lot of, what people don't realize, I have a lot of young girls who message me and they're like, you know what, when I see you talking so boldly, it makes me feel safe in the fandom. It makes me feel like I can have valid opinions and like all this stuff. So I have gone more on the offensive lately.
Yeah.
But that's because people like it. And like people that I make videos about are normally not here to listen and like have good discourse.
Right.
Like I have good discourse with people. Some of these people are not here for that. So I'm just going to have fun with it.
It's, for example, I mentioned to you, and I've said it before, I have been known to poke the bear, and I do it because from a perspective of there's too many people that will take some of the really just way out of proportion news, or the some of the fandom menace approach of hating Kathleen Kennedy and hating everything Disney, and that's their brand. And the problem is, what I've learned, and I'd love your thoughts on this, as there's our sort of echo chamber, right? I mean, you have 220,000 followers on TikTok, so it's a much bigger echo chamber than many. But there's the Star Wars fan echo chamber where we all kind of have this conversation or belief or thinking that either you love where Star Wars is going, or for some reason you don't. And then you get outside that and you realize that people are getting their news, what we, some me and my friends call normies, are getting their news from these really bad places, right? Yeah. And so I feel like there's a need to go at it. It's interesting, somebody who's a social media expert like you've become in the last year, to recognize that you're doing it to take up space. You go into that phrase a little bit more about, you're trying to take space there. What do you mean by that?
Well, like I have had a lot of, like growing up, you get made fun. Everybody kind of gets made fun of for liking Star Wars. I think it's getting better nowadays, but like when I was growing up, you got made fun of, but especially girls. And it was like considered weird and like taboo for girls. It's like, and so like and then when I got into the online space too, and I was like, oh, I want to participate in these conversations. I love Star Wars. I don't have anybody to talk about Star Wars with. I get so much hate. I have had like these little boys. It's really sad though, because they're like young boys and they're a product of the internet, but they like make these hate videos, and like I get thousands of people coming to my page to post hate, and like it's because I'm a woman and I'm unapologetically talking, and their goal is they don't like it when women are loud and have opinions and stuff, and like people like Jay Subs can speak for this too. We get a different flavor of hate, a little sprinkling of hate on top. Everybody gets it, but like there's like an extra kind for women, and sometimes I feel like I want to let them push me down, like stop talking, because it's like so overwhelming and I'm just sick of it. But then I'm letting them win. So I just want to, like, when I say take up space, I just want girls to know that they can have opinions that they stand very strongly by, and they're equally as valid. And you don't have to be super, super, super overly sweet about it. You don't have to let people push you around. You can take up space in a fandom, because like, again, it's getting better now, but like for the longest time, women in fandoms was very like, get out. So we don't want you here. So I want them to take up space in nerd spaces. I want them to be loud.
Yeah.
And feel confident.
It's interesting because you are not the first woman fan who has come out and said, growing up a Star Wars fan was, it wasn't easy. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, I had Susie Bryan on, and she talked about, all her friends would want to go to the mall, and she was like, "Yeah, but I'm going to stay home and watch Clone Wars," and that was a challenging thing, and but it's interesting to hear it from you, who you're kind of in that next generation, and you're still finding that it's something you have to push your way into. Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah, it can get pretty rough
Yeah.
out there.
Are people weaponizing Star Wars as a way to just be their misogynist self, or are they, or is there another reason why, in your opinion? Because I know you've gotten a ton of comments, so let's hear your analysis of. Write your paper on it. Let's hear about it. But it's, I mean, is it people who are misogynist to begin with, and they're using Star Wars, or is it that they're Star Wars fans and they're just pissed off that somebody likes it, that isn't them, that's a woman, that's somebody who's got a voice?
From my experience, what I've learned is it's a lot of unknown. I don't know how to phrase this. It's a lot of internal bias that they don't know they have. So then it comes out in this fandom space, because things are getting more inclusive now, so that their biases that are already there are getting provoked. I don't know how to word it, but like they think that they're not misogynistic because they don't say, "Oh, I hate women." They're like, "Oh, well, I don't hate women." So, but what they don't realize is their biases are very much coming out in response to the increase in inclusivity in these spaces. I don't know if I worded that perfectly, but it's like they just don't know that they have these biases. So like there was this one guy who made a video about Rey, and it was basically discrediting all of her experience and stuff for a joke. And I was like, hey, that's misogyny, because a form of misogyny is men constantly doubting women's abilities, discrediting them. Women have to prove themselves way more in these spaces. And you can see that those biases when they react towards Rey, because everything they said applies to Luke too. Right. But like nobody says those things about Luke. So I'll be like, hey, that's a form of misogyny. And they're like, he didn't say he hates women. What are you talking about?
Right.
So like, it's just a lot of biases they don't realize are there that definitely come out in this space.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've had those similar arguments, of course, from a different perspective. But this, yeah, I mean, people who try to put Rey in a position, and I think you bring up a really interesting perspective, and that is that people do not realize outwardly that that's the way they are responding, because to your point, Luke was a farm boy who flew his little T-16, and next thing you know, he's blowing up the Death Star, and that's not a heck of a lot different than anything Rey did. Hey, we'll be right back with Shaylo Wren. But before we do that, I just wanted to remind you about Podathon 2021. We're excited to be a part of Podathon, benefiting Make-A-Wish. And last year's effort, we raised about $2,000 for the charity. And this year, with your help, we hope to raise even more. Make-A-Wish grants life-changing wishes to children with critical illnesses. And your donation to Podathon will go directly to Make-A-Wish and toward helping a child. This year's Podathon features more than a dozen Star Wars content creators, including us, and will happen on Saturday, November 6th, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern and running into the night, with special guests ranging from Star Wars creators to authors to personalities and more. So far, we have Claudia Gray, we have Charles Soule, we have Paul Sun-Young Lee, and we also have E. Ann Convery, all lined up for you as of right now, with more to come. There will be prizes, there will be giveaways, and most important, we'll be raising money to help change the life of a child who needs it. Please join us for Podathon on November 6th. For more information and a list of all the participating content creators, please visit atgcast.com/Podathon and follow @ThePodathon for updates on guests, events, and raffle items.
This is Brian from Pink Milk, and you are listening to Around the Galaxy.
Why do you think they turn it against Disney and like to use the woke phrases and things like that? Why is that becoming the way that the argument is being held?
I don't know. I think the whole like woke stuff is the internet culture as a whole. It is definitely not just Star Wars. It's like this new internet culture thing that has bled into everything. And I think it's a result of social media algorithms, because the more you interact with something and you get pushed more and more down those rabbit holes. So everything's a lot more extreme now because of algorithms and how algorithms work. So I think that's where the woke SJW stuff came from, and then it bled into the internet space of Star Wars. I guess it's just an easy target. I don't really know why. I know that the prequels got a lot of hate too. Like George Lucas basically got bullied away from his own franchise. Yeah. I'm assuming it's just a similar thing where it's just you're just gonna hate on. If people treat Star Wars in a lot of things now like it's like a fan fiction, or like if it doesn't go exactly how they envisioned it, then it sucks. Right. It's like, so I think it's just an easy target, whoever's in charge right now, Yeah,
it's an interesting evolution of what being a fan means. And I think, I remember a couple of years ago, before Rise of Skywalker came out, before a lot of the Last Jedi hate had started to really manifest, and you had like Game of Thrones didn't go the way people wanted, so they were petitioning to throw it out and start over, and it just seems like a crazy way to be a fan nowadays.
Yeah, it's very odd because it's like it's just not how it works. Like you are given stories and you can enjoy them or you don't enjoy them. It may not go the way that you wanted it to, but that doesn't mean it's like bad. Like sometimes that's life. Like sometimes life doesn't go the way you want it to, and that's how stories are. Like it's not like Star Wars fans especially just have this very linear idea. Like I want it to go this way, so that's the best way. And it's like I don't know where that came. I'm guessing it has to do with the internet too, but I don't know where that came from.
It's I think your comment too about sort of this clickbait culture. My friend Scotty posted something today, and it's a good question that I want to throw your way. What do you think is more challenging, the clickbait culture or the cancel culture? Right. I think that there's a little bit of they both live in the same world. So what's your position on a question like that?
I think definitely clickbait culture. Because like a lot of times when we like cancel culture sucks and it's stupid, but like I have barely seen anybody actually suffer a lot of consequence. Like recently Shane Dawson came back, who's like a big YouTuber who got canceled or whatever. And his new videos got 1.3 million views. Like he's fine. But the thing that's scary about like clickbait culture is how like it's misinformation. It's, like I said, algorithms pushing you down more and more extreme rabbit holes, and like just a lot more, it creates a lot more toxicity, I think. But I could be totally wrong on that, but I'm more scared of like the whole clickbait. Like people just read titles and stuff, and it's like causes a lot of issues.
Yeah. No, and I think it is, again, as I was saying before, one of the reasons I call it out is because it's influencing the mainstream, the people who are casual fans, right? Yeah. And a friend of mine today was just he texted me and said he was at work and saw somebody wearing a Millennium Falcon shirt, and they started talking Star Wars, and the first thing that the guy asked him was, what did he think of the sequel trilogy? And it's weird. It's like it was fed, even though it wasn't sort of it didn't take the extreme view, but it was fed straight from the clickbait headlines, those sort of talk tracks. And is that one of the reasons why you find it so, other than making people feel safe, what is that one of the reasons why you as you were saying before, you're not afraid to go after some of those comments?
Yeah, because it's like one thing to like, nobody has to like the sequels. Nobody has to like the way they went. Nobody, like, I don't care. But it's like the deliberate and constant misinterpretation of those movies that's then weaponized against people. And it's just like, I don't know, I just can't stand it when it's like so deliberate and twisted. Like so many people, especially when it comes to The Last Jedi, will like use the fact that they're like, oh, Luke tried to kill his nephew. And I'm like, that's what they showed in the first incorrect memory of what happened. And then they showed what actually happened, but you're quoting the one that didn't actually happen. So it's like stuff like that where I'm like, it is one thing to have good criticisms and discourse about a movie. I have so many criticisms of the sequels, but like just the complete twisting of the movies is like not even fair. And it's like so discrediting to people who do like them and the people who worked on them. Like, I just can't stand it. So yeah, that's definitely a reason.
Yeah, no, and it's I think it goes to what we talked about before. There was the meme that was running, which was a picture of Luke from The Mandalorian saying the Luke we deserved, and then a picture of Luke, well, first, and then it was Luke with the blue milk from Last Jedi, or the green milk, and saying the Luke we got. Which I think that's a great example of, let's use one frame from the film.
Right. It's like one visual gag. You're going to reduce his entire arc, which was beautiful, down to this one visual gag. And it's not what are we forgetting the whole fight scene at the end? That's so cool.
What I struggle with is why people have such a negative response, because of the fact, I mean, as you were saying before, they probably don't recognize that it's a misogynist viewpoint, but is that the reason they don't like it? I can't figure that out.
I think it depends on like what they don't like. I don't think it's the case for everything. I do think a lot of it results from, it's like all connected. It's just like this big mess. I know one thing for sure that I've discovered in my time on TikTok being attacked is that a lot of them will quote those YouTubers. Right. And like, the reason their views of these movies are so skewed is because they listen to like Robot Head and like all those really toxic Star Wars YouTubers. And then they listen to they like absorb their talking points and just regurgitate it like crazy, even though they don't make sense. So like I made a video where I took a Robot Head video that people kept tagging me in and dissected it point by point, showing that it's wrong. But like the only responses were regurgitating those same points. Yeah. So like I know that YouTube culture had a huge impact on a lot of people's opinions of these movies, unfortunately, even though they're not even good criticisms. Yeah.
Well, and that's why I'm with you on, I think that the clickbait culture is more dangerous, because you will never stop seeing geeks and gamers and Doomcock and all these guys doing those things as long as they get clicks for it, right? As long as there's money in it, they will continue to make it their brand, and it's and
it works.
They
get a lot of views.
It does. Where's as you have dealt with some of your detractors, I'm coming up with all these very nice euphemisms for idiots who attack you online for no reason. Let's just call it what it is. Have you ever been in a situation where you were like, because I'll share my perspective. I'd love to hear how you've evolved, because I'm sure it was an evolution. The first time I got called out on Twitter, because I took a different perspective, and I mean, and the armies of one of the negative leaders came after me and just like filled my mentions and my replies with garbage and attacks. And it was like, I was a mess that day. I was like, I was sitting in my family room with my phone, and I was like checking it. And now it's like, it goes with the territory. If I'm going to put the armor on and pick up the sword and be sort of, again, I'm not trying to defend the movies. To your point, I have serious issues with Rise of Skywalker, but it's what it is. Have you ever been, how did you evolve through that? How did you respond to that first time somebody came at you, and how do you deal with it now?
I think I handled it about the same as most people do. Like you said, where you're just like, oh, this is the worst. And you're like watching all the notifications come in, and you're like, I did not handle. I like messaged the person. I was like, listen, I'm going through it right now. Can you please take your video down? And like, of course he didn't. Right. But yeah, it was really distressing the first time. And then after that, I just have to, the only way to get through it is laying on the block button. I have to, my block list on TikTok is at least 3,000 people long. I swear. It's so long. And laying on the block button and just reminding yourself over and over that the internet is literally fake. Like the internet isn't real. Right. So like, that's one thing I get through it now. And like, sometimes it does get to me more, like depending on what's going on in my life. Like if I'm already going through a lot, and then like recently Robot Head came for me, and I was just like, I can't handle this. But just remind yourself that the internet isn't real. And these people, if they're going to attack you for Star Wars, are very sad people.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, to your point too, I mean, they come after you and just as there are videos of the negative and toxic YouTubers clearly admitting that there is money in it for them. Hey, at the end of the day, if you've gotten on their radar, that means you're doing something right? I mean, you are, and that's kind of a way to look at it in that regard, perhaps.
Yeah. Like some people will be like, well, why are you making videos about them then if you think so poorly of them or whatever? And I'm like, because if they're going to spread misinformation and misogyny and stuff and hate and get views and stuff off of it, I'm going to get views and stuff off of it. Right. Especially misogynists. I'm like, if you're going to try to get clout off of being a misogynist, I'm going to get clout off of it instead.
Yeah.
I'm going to benefit from this.
Yeah. Well, and talk a little bit about, you said sort of in passing before about making the space safe for women fans. And do you find that that's become sort of a part of why you're doing what you do, and are you getting the response that you want from that?
Yeah, absolutely. That was probably one of the main reasons starting out. There's a lot of reasons. Like, I needed a creative outlet. I wanted somebody to talk about Star Wars, but also a big thing is because I saw that there was a need for people to show like, hey, women can be loud and take up spaces too. So that was a big motivator, and I have gotten a lot of good response from women specifically. Like I said, I get messages a lot that are like, you know what? You make me feel better, like I belong in this space. And then I see some women who start making content themselves, and I'm like, yes. And they say it's because of my videos and stuff. Not that I'm the only one, but but it does help a lot. It helps us win. I think things have gotten a lot better, and especially when I see men start to stand up against that stuff too on behalf of women, that helps a lot too, because sometimes these people aren't going to listen to women, but they will listen to men, and so it all helps. Yeah.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there when I think that's nobody's going to have their mind changed by, right. If I'm a misogynist and I'm going to come after you, whatever you say to me I'm not going to be like, oh, you know what? She's right. I'm going to change my entire upbringing in one tweet and go from there. But the value you bring to people who need the support or who benefit from the support is worth so much more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it makes it worth it.
Yeah, that's great. So, so what's been some of your favorite videos that you've posted about Star Wars, and what were some of the fun reactions or challenging reactions to them?
Probably the one I'm most well known for is the one where I like talked about an Attack of the Clones, how Padme jumps down onto the back of that rhino thing. I can't remember the name of it right now, and just like direct impact onto her coochie. And I said that it was to be made of steel. That's my most well-known video, and it was definitely the most fun because I was in my Discord. I have a community Discord, and we were like doing the physics, and I was like getting help, and it was so fun. That one's my fave.
I think that's funny too, and that was one of the ones where I started to realize you almost have a style of, if you don't mind me recognizing, of bringing indisputable facts to these arguments, right? I mean, yeah, it's one thing to say, yeah, Padme has quite a bit of strength when she lands on a very sensitive area. But it's another to like bring the amount of energy and force by distance and all that so stuff. Was like, wow,
that makes it so fun. Yeah.
But even your other arguments, what did you go to school for? You have a very sort of very almost I was gonna say almost a clinical approach sometimes to your arguments.
Yeah, I just graduated this past May and got my degree in genetics.
Wow. Okay. So you,
Yeah. So I'm a STEM person.
yeah. So you're very focused on facts and what A leads to B, and that's very clear with
my favorite videos I make are the ones where I bring in stuff I've learned and tie it into Star Wars. So like recently I made videos about how Grogu's an apex predator because of his evolved traits, and like it's just so much fun to tie in science and Star Wars. So yeah, I do have like a clinical
but it's clinical and it's fun, but it's funny, and you've sort of mastered a nice little corner of the internet.
This is Marie Wilson, Dragon Con Star Wars Trivia Champion 2 years in a row, and you're listening to Around the Galaxy.
I have something I haven't done in a while, which is my 10 question segment. And they're sort of like, I don't know if you ever saw Inside the Actors Studio, but they're 10 questions. They're all Star Wars related. There's no wrong answers. Nobody will judge you. Oh, well, you're on the internet. Everybody will judge you. Absolutely everybody will judge you. I won't. I might, but
that's fine.
But not here. And there's it's long or short an answer as you like. So I'll just run through them and let's see how where we go. What's your favorite Star Wars movie, TV show, or book?
Ooh, so actually, it was Rebels. Rebels is my favorite Star Wars content of all time, but right now I have a really bad habit of having like bias over things I've recently watched and I'm really hyped for, so I'm trying to let that hype die down, but it may be Star Wars Visions.
Oh yeah.
it is giving Rebels a run for its money to me.
Really? I really enjoyed your video about high heels and Visions because I didn't even notice it, but you're right. High heels as a power indicator versus a sex appeal indicator was and that's how good Visions is, right? I didn't stop for a moment and be like,
right,
wow,
it wasn't like forced.
yeah. And what was it about Visions that that has you so hyped?
My favorite, I love Star Wars the most when it's being imaginative and fun. So that's why I love Rebels. I love the world between worlds. It's so mysterious and like lore rich, and it's just like I love when Star Wars is. That's why I think The Mandalorian is fantastic, but it's not really for me because it felt kind of safe. I love when Star Wars is whimsical and stuff, and Visions was just like you could tell it was so imaginative, so much creative freedom because it wasn't canon. And it was made by people who love Star Wars, so it didn't feel like fan service. It felt like we're paying tribute to moments in Star Wars that took our breath away, and like just the passion and the creativity and stuff. I was like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, and that's a common theme recently has just sort of been in conversations I've had with fans is just like Star Wars. It's almost its own genre now, right? In that. It's literally everything. And that's probably why we have the arguments that we see online is because for some people it's pew pew and spaceships. And for some people it's the magic of the Force, and some it's World Between Worlds. And but the amazing thing is it's all there. It's all on the buffet table. You can pick what you want and you can really enjoy it.
There's so much variety now.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes on my show was Katrina Dennis was on a couple weeks ago, and she said, it's like going to the Sizzler buffet and wanting only ice cream, but being mad that broccoli is on the table. You don't
How dare.
Yeah.
Really
next question is, what's your favorite non-Star Wars movie?
For the longest time, it was Up. The movie about the old man and the dog and the kid. Yeah. Recently, the only thing that's ever dethroned it was Soul, that Pixar movie that very recently came out. Soul is my favorite movie ever.
Yeah, what is it about it that you love? What is it about it?
Just the fact that it covers. I really like really thought-provoking things, and it was so thought-provoking. It literally changed my perspective on my life, and it was like a Pixar movie. So it's like it did such a good job at that, and like. Just covered heavy themes, but was still fun. It has good representation. It's just so well, and you could tell a lot of love was put into it. It's very imaginative. Like I said, I like things that stretch the imagination, and it's just I love it so much. I love deep things, and it was so deep.
Yeah, it's amazing. Pixar rarely misses, and it's and they've mastered that. My 8-year-old son can watch it and love it and just enjoy the hell out of it. And I mean, I walked out of what was it, Coco, with my kids.
So good.
Holy cow! When Remember Me, I can't be in the room when Remember Me comes on. I feel like, all right, I gotta go. I gotta go do something. Yeah. But it's a remarkable how they did it. When I took my kids to see what was the one with the emotions in the girl's head? What was it?
Inside Out.
Inside
that
Out.
movie changed my life too.
Man, I kept my 3D glasses on when I walked out with my kids, and my daughter walked out at the time, however many years ago that was. She was like, "I want to call mommy." Like, she immediately like wanted the phone. She wanted to call.
Oh.
But again, Pixar, geez, they nailed.
Yeah, it's so good.
Amazing, cool,
And good for all ages too. Everybody can get stuff out of it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Name one actor that you would like to see in a Star Wars.
Oh no. Like just in a Star Wars project.
Yeah, anything. Voice, TV, movie.
I'll say this: I live under a rock, and I live under a Star Wars rock. I don't know many actors that I could think of that I really am into. I would have to think about it. Do you have an answer?
Do I?
So I can brainstorm?
Yeah, my answer is Gary Oldman, who I just think he's always he's often the best part of the movie he's in. I loved him in like The Professional and even in like The Fifth Element, and I can see him being able to do that. But the challenge with that question, as others have told me, is one of the great things about Star Wars is often we discover people through Star Wars, right? And that's their entry. So like Woody Harrelson in Solo, it was okay, but I still see Woody Harrelson,
Right.
So it's
like when
amazing.
you bring in famous actors I totally get that.
Yeah.
I will say that my answer would be I really want because we got Rey, and that meant the world to like people like me and all the like, you have a daughter who loves Rey, and like it meant the world to all these little girls, but we still haven't seen any Black women, and like I feel like that's a big missing spot in our characters. Like we got Jana, but she's barely in it. There's a Black woman, and so specifically a Black women lead, a Black actress would be wonderful as a lead in a Star Wars project.
Yeah.
To kind of fill in that. I think that it's well past time.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to some other podcast recently, and they were talking about, you go back to 1977, and it was like it was the all white men movie. I mean, the fact that it's actually kind of amazing that Carrie Fisher was able to rise above and become such a powerful figure. It speaks so much about her because she was surrounded by, ultimately really great actors who became great actors. And, you had, of course, Alec Guinness and Harrison Ford, who grew out of that. And Mark Hamill, he's just a wonderful human being. I don't know that his career, but David Prowse and Peter Cushing, and just this amazing group of, and she, honestly, at the end of the day, she's the star. And if she didn't pass away, I know that she would have been the linchpin to the entire Star Wars saga, I think. So.
Yeah, in Tross, that would have been her movie. Ugh.
Yeah. But you can't say enough about just even all three of the original films. Anyway, you could say enough, but it would take a long time.
Amazing.
So out of the Star Wars characters, all of them, which one would you most like to be and why?
To be?
Yes, if you could be any Star Wars character.
Probably. Honestly, I really like where Ahsoka's at because she was a part of something that taught her a lot, and then she moved on from it, and now is kind of like she's like literally the embodiment of the light now because of like the Mortis arc and stuff. And I just think that's so sick. I love where she's at and how she's operating. I would love to take Ahsoka's place.
I think, I feel bad for people who are Star Wars fans who haven't watched Clone Wars because it's a cartoon, right?
Right.
I mean, the story of Ahsoka has, and I am the first to admit, and I don't know, you were probably, close to the target age when the Clone Wars movie came out. Did you see it when it came out?
I watched the Clone Wars a bit later after it came out. I wasn't big into TV when I was younger, but
Yeah.
I watched it. I can't remember what age. Yeah, it was, middle school, high school.
Yeah. But I remember, like, I was just so the first couple episodes and the movie, I was like, oh, I just can't with this little. And now,
Oh, the movie's so bad.
the movie's it's hard to watch, honestly.
Yeah, but it became something great.
But I mean, Ahsoka as a character is just, I think, to your point, and that's why. I know your answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What was your thought on the Martez sisters arc in Clone Wars season 7?
I think it served its purpose. I wish it was a little shorter.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. It's just like for the last season though, I was like, okay, wait a minute. This is taking up a lot of our season.
Yeah, I agree. Four episodes was too many, but I loved what it showed about Ahsoka and what she learned.
Yes.
And so
it definitely served its purpose. It was very well done.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts on Matt here in the chat what are your thoughts on Rosario Dawson's portrayal of?
I thought here's where my issue with Ahsoka does come in a little bit, and I get hate for this, but like I feel like her personality, and I know she went through a lot. I just feel like her character progression didn't fit who we saw at the beginning. I think they toned her down a lot. So I feel like Rosario Dawson, when I looked at her, I was like, that's Ahsoka, and I think she did a great job. But it does remind me of how toned down her character is from her personality. Mm-hmm. And again, I know she went through a lot with like war and stuff, but I just feel like that's not the way she would have reacted to all that trauma. I think they toned her personality down a lot, and that makes me a little sad. I think her performance was a little flat, but that's just what it is. But as far as like doing Rosario, it couldn't have been anybody better. I think the casting was perfect. Yeah,
and it's great to have somebody who's such a fan of the character to begin with. Yeah. One of the things that blew me away about Rosario Dawson's performance was there were little subtle movements that came straight out of the animation. A lot of that has to do with the fact that Filoni directed it, but
when she was fighting, I was like, that looks just like the animated show. It was so good. That's why, like, I saw some people complaining, and they're like, oh, it doesn't feel like Ahsoka. I thought it felt just like Ahsoka. I thought she nailed it.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that series, and that one can't come soon enough. There's so many great things. I mean, 2022 is an incredible year. It's what are you looking forward to the most of all the things we know we have coming?
Probably Ahsoka. Is that coming out in 2022?
No, that's probably 2023. So in 2022, we know we'll have most of Book of Boba Fett. We'll have Mandalorian season 3, Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Bad Batch season 2.
Probably 2022. Probably the Obi-Wan show would be the one I'm most excited for. Andor will probably be great. Rogue One's one of my favorite. It's like neck and neck with The Last Jedi for me. So I'm very excited about that one too. But maybe Obi-Wan.
Yeah. I'm excited by the fact that we know the Obi-Wan series is actually a finite beginning and end. And it's one of those things where when I first heard about it, I was like, I don't need to know. In my mind, he dropped the kids off. They dropped Luke off, sat in the sand and watched from a distance, and that was it. But there's gonna be, and with Hayden coming back, it's gonna be.
Yeah, that's why I think there's a lot of potential for a lot of like character exploration in that show. I really hope that's the way they go with it, but we'll see. Yeah.
My dream would be to have it end with the Maul Kenobi fight that we saw in Rebels.
So good. Yes, that would be good.
But I don't know if that's gonna happen. I'm a dreamer, if nothing else. Okay, so what's your favorite Star Wars sound effect?
I made a video forever. One of my first ones about Star Wars sound effects. I really love Yoda dying screaming in Lego Star Wars. It's really iconic. No, I have an answer. Sebulba's Pod Racer.
That's mine. That is mine. I have said that every time.
When I hear it, I'm like, dopamine.
And it's funny, my son, totally unprompted, we were watching the Star Wars Galaxy of Sounds, and he was like, where's the sound? Where's the da 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 sound? I'm like, here it comes. But I remember and I'm going off track here, but I remember because I was an original trilogy kid, and I was admittedly, and I will readily admit it because I'm not an online jerk, but I did not love Phantom Menace when I walked out the door because
Yeah,
I don't know what I was
valid.
expecting. I mean, geez, I was
It's not great.
well, yeah, but it was I didn't know what to expect. But I remember
Mhm.
talking to my friends because I had seen it before them. And they're like, what did you love it? It was great. And I was like, the sound effects in the pod race are amazing. That was my takeaway.
That was the standout.
But you know, it's funny now. It's funny that what time does, because 20 plus years later, I love that movie, and I don't.
Yeah.
I really didn't when I walked out of it, and I don't know. Do you think that'll happen for Last Jedi, or do you think that there's
Yes.
yeah.
I think it's just history repeating itself because people love the prequels now, and a lot of it may be nostalgia or whatever, but I think it'll happen too. Feels like the exact same thing.
It is. I mean, I did a video a couple of weeks ago about how there's nothing new in hating the Star Wars sequels, and all the arguments against the sequels were the same arguments against the prequels. I mean, even down to people complaining about that they totally ignored the canon, and I was like, do you remember that Luke and Leia, like Leia said she remembered her mother? Remember that? And Obi-Wan
Right.
Obi-Wan said that Yoda was his master, and he just threw it all out the window. That's fine. I'm going to make my story.
You're right.
So I think it's coming back. Who's your favorite droid?
Favorite droid? Honestly, I made a video recently about it was like a bunch of droids, and it was like which one would your best friend adopt? Test your friend and see if they know which one that you would adopt. And I was going through the droids, and I was like, which one would I want? And I was like, honest to God, I just have such a soft spot for Dio. It's just so silly and anxious, it's just so cute. I just have a soft spot for that droid. I don't know what it is. I freaking love that droid. And also Chopper's great.
Chopper's great too. Yeah. But it's funny. The thing that resonated with me with Dio was when he says, no, thank you. And it reminded me of my son when he was little, right? And if we told him if somebody wants to, talk to you or something, just say no, thank you, and run away. And when he does that, when Rey reaches out to, it was perfect.
That's so cute. Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite Star Wars collectible that you own?
Right back there. I have, let's see if I can point to it. There. You can see the handle of a lightsaber. That was my first toy. One of my first toys ever. That thing is old as me. It has teeth marks on it where I chewed on it as a little kid. And it's just like a green lightsaber. It's one of those where you have to press down the button and throw it out.
Yep.
Also, I have Rey's grab it. Rey's lightsaber right here, the Empress. And because her lightsaber is my very, very fave. So I bought, it doesn't have the leather piece, but I bought her the Empress. It's my fave.
Oh, wow. Yeah. All right. If you could own any spaceship or vehicle from the Star Wars universe, what would you want to be your ride?
I love those, which I think it's also largely driven by nostalgia, but those really shiny Naboo ships.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're I don't know how to explain them, but you know which ones I'm talking about. I love those. I can't remember the exact name. And also the ghosts from Rebels.
Yeah. Yeah, I always think of the Ghost sort of feels like the Winnebago in the sky. It's just they live in it. It's their home. It's actually one of the few ships that I actually have a little model of. I don't buy a lot of ship stuff, but that's one I think. And actually, I remember I got my son one when he was a kid. There was a Fisher Price one or whatever it was. But the Ghost is great, and I do love those. I'm going to be a nerd here. Those N1 Starfighters, because they were. They sound cool too.
Yes.
That was great. Okay. What's your favorite Star Wars moment?
That's a huge question, but anytime I get asked this, I go right back to finding out. This is when I talk about, I have so many huge problems with Tross. There's a lot I just hate about it, but also it has my favorite Star Wars moment ever. And it's when we saw Leia was a Jedi or got trained as a Jedi. She quit right before, but just seeing that she did get trained and that she was freaking better than Luke at fighting. And I was like, this is what I have been waiting my entire life for. Because clearly, like, I grew up looking up to her so much. Princess Leia, loved her. And then finally I get to see her on the big screen. Because I know, like, in Legends or whatever, she got trained as a Jedi. But seeing her on the big screen with the lightsaber, I was like, I have waited 21 years for this.
Yeah. It was it was great to see that and to sort of have sort of this canon version of the fact that she did take advantage, and and honestly, in classic Leia form, she did it her way, and she was like, you know what, I'm far enough in the training and I know what could happen. I'm going to. That's something that I don't think, and I haven't thought of it until right now, but that's something that I don't think a lot of characters have ever done. I mean, to recognize that going down this path is not going to be good. You think about sort of all the things that Yoda said, and Yoda gave people gave Luke the choice. He didn't say don't go to Cloud City. He said, here's what could happen, but it's up to you. Right. But Leia was like, yeah, if I continue down this path, it's not going to end well. But yeah, I would love to see. I wish we could see more of that. And the last question here is, what is your go-to Star Wars quote?
Quote? It used to be like in the original trilogy when Yoda said, luminous beings we are, not this crude matter. I was like, that makes me feel good. I love that quote. But honestly, it may be also what Yoda said in The Last Jedi about failure. That's the exact quote is slipping, like the greatest teacher failure is. When he says it, that whole scene in The Last Jedi, I'm just like, wow, that really hits me. I love that scene with Yoda. That's my favorite Yoda we get. It may be one of those off the top of my head. That's great.
Those are good. I mean, it's hard not to pick a Yoda quote, right? I mean, he's
right. They're iconic.
He's a walking fountain of, inspirational posters. He's really great with that. Shaylo, this was awesome. It was so great to talk to you and get to know sort of the way you're going about things. And where can people follow you online?
I mainly am on TikTok. That's my main platform, Shaylo_Ren. And I do a lot of Twitch streaming too, Shaylo_Ren. We do a lot of just imagine the chaotic nerdiness in my TikToks, but extended to an hour. That's on Twitch.
Well, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, and I look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Well, that wraps it up for this episode of Around the Galaxy. First of all, thank you so much for lasting this long. Holy cow. If you did, please go to Pete's Twitter at ATGcast and DM him with the word holy cow. And he'll enter you into something to win something, I'm sure. Anyway, this episode and all others are copyright 2021 Pete in the Seat Studios. Our music is brought to us by the band Silver Colored Knob, and you can find them wherever you find music. Make sure to follow us on all your social media channels at ATGcast. And, also go to our website, atgcast.com, and join our Patreon at patreon.com/atgcast. Well, I hope to see you next week. I mean, unless Pete shuts me down, but I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, yeah, anyway, go to, are we still rolling?